Hello everybody, here we are today talking about the Columbus Blue Jackets, a team that's not just in the playoff picture, but currently in a playoff spot. But before we get started with it, please make sure to subscribe if you're new to me or hockey, whatever the case may be. That being said, let's get on into it. So earlier in the season, I did a video on November 24th talking about how Columbus could be a team that makes the playoffs. And in that video, I basically said that I didn't think it would happen, but I still thought maybe it could be a better year than expected in Columbus. And my main reasoning, I think, in a lot of ways just comes down to there was a lot of ground to cover, not necessarily in the standings at that time, just that there were a lot of teams between them in making the playoffs. A lot of sides that had regularly made the postseason before, maybe just too many hurdles to go out there and try to jump. But a lot of these sides got off the slow starts, and while you thought they'd get better, they haven't really done that. And there's been some teams that have been massively underperforming this year, like the Boston Bruins, who have recently lost 6 in a row, or the New York Rangers, who are out of a playoff spot entirely right now, where teams you really thought would be safe and secure, and then making it to where the playoff field was shrunk, aren't there, which has allowed for teams in the Atlantic and the Metro to, again, jump on that opportunity, Columbus being one of those teams. And because of that, I feel like there's been a lot of new energy in the league this year, where a lot of teams that never really feel like they've had a chance over the past 5 or so years can say, yes, our opportunity is here, and Columbus is making their mark. They are a side that has been kind of fun for the entirety of the season, for better or worse. They are a team that scores a lot. They rank 6th in the league for goals for per 60, but over their past 10, I think that's really what's been able to capture a lot of people's attention. Maybe not as many people, because again, it's a smaller market, but they've gone 7-2-1 over that stretch. They're on a 3-game win streak and have been able to put up a lot of big numbers. Not only have they been scoring a lot then, but they are scoring a ton right now. They rank 1st in the entire league for goals over their past 10 games with 41, so 4.1 goals on average for every game. And at first you say, oh, maybe there was a couple big nights here or there. But when you realize how many times they've been able to go out there and score 4 goals or more, your jaw is going to be on the floor. So out of the past 10 games, they have scored 4 goals or more in 9 of them. The only time they didn't score 4 goals was a very shocking 4-0 loss to the Boston Bruins, which is, again, weird because Boston really has been struggling. But you know, I think what's even more impressive out of this is the fact that even though they played 10 games and have scored the most, they actually did it in fewer games than some other teams. Some teams played as many as 12 games over the period that this side has played. Again, rest versus actually getting to play is kind of an argument there, but they still scored 41 goals in 10 games. And to kind of keep on adding to the offensive numbers over this stretch from December 19th to January 10th, nobody in the entire NHL has more goals than Dmitry Voronkov of the Columbus Blue Jackets, a young player for them that is 1 goal away of tying what he did from last year. He had 18 goals. He's already got 17 now. And if he gets a goal in his next game, which is tonight, he will have done that in 31 less games. And anytime you see a young player over the stretch of about an eighth of the season lead the league in goals, you are thrilled. Guess about what other things you can kind of get excited about here. More young players. Kirill Marchenko is 3rd in the league for goals over this time. I believe he has 7 goals over his past 10 games. He has been a very fun player to watch in recent years for them. And it's not just like it's 1 or 2 guys either. They have 4 out of their top 10 players in the entire league, consisting of Columbus Blue Jackets players for points. Zach Werenski coming in at number 2 in the league, behind only Nathan MacKinnon, a NHL superstar right now. And I know some people might say that this success has contributed to the fact that Monahan, Voronkov, and then of course Marchenko play on a line together. But I just don't want to hear it, because they are not just playing on a line together and doing really well. They are dominating. They've outscored teams 24-5 when they've been out there on the ice together over their past 10 games. And there are just more players that are having success than this. It's, yes, of course, seeing 4 guys that are averaging over points per game, that is nice, but it's other guys as well too. There are a plethora that have 5 or more points over this span, again, some of them being young. And you feel why a lot of these fans are probably feeling really, really good going forward, because it's the veteran guys and the young guys not only having some success, but a ton of offensive success right now, which is pivotal in a low-scoring game like hockey. No other reasons to be concerned. I would say yes, of course, the defensive issue is still something to worry about. They may have an easy time scoring at will, but it seems like when it comes to keeping the puck out of their end of the net, or their net, I should say, they still struggle. They have the 2nd highest goals against per 60 on the season, and even over this 10-game stretch where they have won 7 games, they are still, I think, 6th worst in the entire league. Elvis Merzlikins, of course, is one of those names that you worry about a little bit too. His numbers are kind of deceiving. In some ways, he's got some numbers that aren't bad. In other ways, there are numbers that don't look great. I think one of those things that we could be talking about here is he might have issues settling the puck down right now, or guys might just be blocking his view, as in his past 10 games, they've got 50 rebound attempts against, So basically meaning a lot of chances are going to be able to have second chances, possibly even third chances when you are playing against Columbus. But I don't think they are really too worried about that right now, again, too, because they're winning, they're scoring a lot, and there are days where they can have some good performances. They recently had a game where they just allowed 2 goals against Seattle. Not every game is perfect, but they won 6-2. So, you know, a 4-goal win in that regard, or winning by 4 goals, is another highlight to what's been a very fun season. I think this ultimately ends with a good year, positive year for Columbus, regardless of what happens. As long as things continue the way they have been, they may fall off a little bit, and they still are outside of the playoff picture. But as long as they're continuing to score, what do you have? You have a team that is pretty young in a lot of ways, drafted a lot of this talent that they're hoping can produce. Some of these guys really producing this year, and you're thinking about, well, next season, maybe if we continue to be a really top-end team offensively, but fix some issues on the other side of the ice, we're going to be okay. You have a team that is possibly on the up and up for the long term. I don't want to get too dramatic here because, again, sometimes you'll say, well, we really bought into this when maybe the power play was electric for a short time or something like that. But that is the worst case scenario as long as they're continuing to score. Now, the best case scenario is they go out there and they continue to score and then make the playoffs. Now, do they even win a series? Maybe not, but I think you have 2 situations where they either lose the series in 6 or 7 games, which would be amazing if they scored a lot of goals and say, well, we really took a team to the brink, or you have this young team that doesn't know any better, that knows that they can score, go out there and beat a better, more well-rounded team, and then go on to the second round, which for a lot of sides probably isn't that big of a deal. But for a franchise like Columbus that doesn't have hardly any postseason success in franchise history, this would be absolutely massive. Now, again, maybe you see a series where they get swept and they score, 2 goals on average for the whole series. That's a real possibility too. But even if that was the case, I think Columbus fans would say, we've got a young team. Of course we're going to lose to a much better side. So overall, I just have to say that this has been a good first half of the season for Columbus. Is it benefiting from, of course, other teams not really having good years and the wildcard picture being a little bit open? Yes, but so many other teams are taking advantage of that. At the end of the day, people can get mad and say, well, this team only made it because there were just so many teams that really did have a bad year. But guess what? That team actually goes out there and gets a trip to the playoffs, whereas a lot of other sides are going to be watching from their couch. So if you're a fan of this team, why wouldn't you be happy, even if maybe you got in on 86 points or 87 points in the regular season? I don't exactly know where that will end up being for that final wildcard spot, or just the final wildcards, the 2 wildcard spots, I should say. But fun year. I am just having so much fun watching hockey this season and seeing how the East stacks up compared to the West. And outside of Vancouver, I don't think any of these teams that are in those wildcard spots would actually be in a playoff picture or out East if they played out West. Maybe I'm wrong, but either way, again, a fun year. Columbus being one of those surprise sides. Montreal, of course, being one of those. Ottawa, possibly even Detroit. I mean, there's just so many good storylines here out East alone. So what are your thoughts on Columbus? Kind of circling back to them. Let me know down below in the comments. Also, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe. Have a great night. And Eagle of Hockey, all right. Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.